Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. And this afternoon, we have a very special guest, at least to me, but especially to everybody else on the table. This is my grandmother.
Wow.
What an introduction.
What an introduction. So today we have the privilege to have my wonderful grandmother sharing with us. She's not just my grandma, but she was also the pioneer, along with my grandpa, of the base here in London. And they really paved the way for all of us to be here today. So it's really an honour to have you as my grandma, but also it's an honour to have you because I think also you bring not just a lot of authority from everything that you've walked through, but in particular for what we're going to talk about this afternoon.
Okay, no pressure.
Dun, dun, dun.
So you are my grandmother, but what is your name?
Okay, my name is Rosana. Yes, I'm her grandma.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's true.
You don't have to say how old you are, but you are very young.
I'm 60, nearly 65.
Oh, wow. Very, very young.
Very young.
You know,
It's because of leadership.
Yes.
That keep me young. No.
So I'll ask you a few questions about yourself so that we can know a bit more about you before we talk about the topic. I think that will also kind of help us go into what we're going to talk about. So how long have you been serving in the UK?
In the UK, 23 years.
Wow. And before that?
And before that, long time. Probably more than 10 years or,
Wow.
long time.
A long time.
Yes.
Wow. So you can say that most of your life, if not all your life, you've dedicated to God.
Yes, I became a Christian with 18 years old. And since that, I'm serving God. Yes.
Wow.
How not?
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay. Great point. Yeah.
Why not?
Mic drop.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So I just realized my phone locked. I'm so sorry, which means that
We need the passcode apps. In case you've seen any of our other episodes, you know this is a theme.
this is the theme. It happens very often. We use each other's phones to record and to use everything. And my phone's currently recording, which means I need somebody else's phone to help me know what I'm going to talk about.
Just to continue to prove we're unfiltered.
Yeah,
That's
this
the
is
whole
really
point.
unfiltered.
Everything very spontaneous.
Exactly. Exactly. Go with the flow. So it's a privilege. We're all good. We're all good. Keeping it unfiltered.
I thought that this was a serious program.
It's serious enough. Serious enough. It's about to get serious.
Oh, great. Okay. Let's see.
So this afternoon we're going to talk about women in leadership. I think this is a very controversial topic.
Is it?
Well, that's what we're going to find out in a sense. But I think in the global church is a bit really divided in this topic. In missions, I think things are very different. We have moved a lot more, but this is still something that the church today still struggles with. Or women in leadership are in leadership to a certain point. And so we really just want to dive deeper in this topic, and this is why it's amazing to have you, Rosana, because you have been in leadership in two different continents, and you've been in leadership for more than 20 years. So you've also seen a change of women in leadership.
Of course.
Yes. Also, so many different dimensions of leadership, from leading like a location to leading eldership teams to being a part of leadership in churches, like so many different dynamics of leadership.
Yes, of course.
Good view.
Yes.
So what would you say about women in leadership? Like biblically, also because you're a woman of the Word of God.
Of course.
But you also know so much about the Word of God. You've studied the Bible so much. So biblically, what is your take on women in leadership?
Okay. Try to avoid what Paul says about this, because that is a long discussion if we start with him. But always Jesus said we need to go to the origin. In the very beginning was okay to be a woman in leadership. Actually, when God created men, created also women, and he said, I created men, female and male, in my image. And I asked them to subdue the earth and to have a role of leadership to both of them in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26 and 27.
Wait.
Thanks for the reference.
Okay.
Perfect.
Then is in the beginning was like that both of them were called to leadership. Then that, in that sense there is no problem.
Wow.
Of course that there are some misunderstandings about some interpretation of the Bible, especially in the New Testament, but we can avoid that problems. I'm not the expert in theology, but some book that is very, very nice to read if you have some doubts and you want to go deeper in that is Why Not Women?
Yeah, that's a good book.
Then you can read that and can, if you have more questions, deep questions about the biblical foundation of that.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, would you say that when it comes to leadership and women, like serving in leadership, that there are certain points where also women need to perhaps give more space to men? Or would you say that actually women can be everywhere in leadership, but not in these areas? I don't know if that makes sense.
I think that at the beginning you said that there are different cultures, actually different generations. When I started in leadership in South America, of course I faced a lot of challenges to be a leader as a woman.
Yeah.
But now I can see that it's completely different. There is much more freedom to be a leader as a woman, like was before. Then I think that I don't know if I remember very well your question, but or I'm speaking about something else. But the reality is that I find that there is not now a big problem to combine both things when you are working together with men, and because both of them, men and female, have the same authority, I consider. Of course, if I'm working with my husband, that is another topic. For me, one thing is male and female, another thing is your husband. You know, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I still believe in the submission of women to their husbands, which means that both of them have leadership, but there are some moments where you need to, as a woman, this is my perspective or my view about what the Bible says. I consider that we should, recognize that last word from them. Of course, there's sometimes this is not that simple. Actually, your question was quite complex.
I know.
Because in sometimes when I'm with my husband, I notice that something that he's saying, for example, is not from God, and I'm completely sure that this is not from God, absolutely not from God. Then I try to use all my art as a woman to make him notice that this is not from God, you know. But at the same time, when he insists, and I'm not sure if it's really from God or not, in front of that lack of security, and if that is not a very difficult thing, that can bring bad consequences if I obey him, then I believe that I should submit to him. But that's why it's not black and white. There are so many gray side in this,
100%.
topic.
I mean, I'm not married, as you all know by now. You're not? I'm not. No.
Shocking.
I know. But sorry, knocked the mic. something that I've been trying to grow in the last few years, is to, although maybe I'm not respecting my husband in leadership because I don't have one, to, if I am co-leading with other men, to make sure that I can give space and step aside to honor their manhood and still have that submission that the Bible talks about as well, about allowing men to be the head. And for me, that's really difficult. I'll be honest. It's really difficult. First of all, it's really difficult because like,
you are my granddaughter.
That could be the first reason, yes. No, but I think it's really difficult for me. First of all, because I don't like if. I guess I can't say firsthand because I'm not married, but if I'm married to someone, then I'm choosing to love them, you know, even in those moments. So I have to kind of submit myself. But if I'm co-leading with somebody, maybe I don't like that person, you know, and that's something I don't choose. But I do love God, and I want to be more like God, and I want to be more like Jesus. And so for me, I find that I think what's most difficult for me is to recognize men and their capacity, and recognize my capacity, but know that it's okay to put my capacity to the side in order to also honor, you know, the male figure, or even honor my friend, even, you know, and give them space to do things.
I love that from you. But honestly, I think that this should be mutual. From the man to honor me, and from me to honor him. I think it's mutual. I don't think that it's just me as a woman to honor him, but it's mutual. I think that it's much easier to recognize a man that recognizes you than to recognize a man that thinks that is superior to you. What do you think? What do you think, Madison?
Tables have turned.
She's now asking the questions. She's leading.
Spicy. Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's difficult when a guy doesn't respect me or doesn't honor me in that way. I think for me, like you said, it's a really gray area, you know? And so for me, I tend to be more self-critical, and I tend to be more like, in what way do I need to, like, I can be stronger myself. So I know the background that I come from, and I know the way that I've needed to be healed, especially in the area that I see men. So for a long time, my first reaction to men was like, I can do it better, if I'm honest, you know? Or like, because also that was my experience in many ways, you know? And maybe I didn't consciously say that, but something in my heart or even in my actions was like, it's okay, you sit there and I'll do it. It's fine, you know? And it comes out as like, let me bless you. But I think underneath was actually like, I think maybe I can be faster or better or whatever, you know?
Wow.
So it's taken a lot of years to overcome that and to like really give space to that. And I think I've been really thankful for guys in the base in particular, because I've never led outside of a base. I've been here for a while.
What is the base? Maybe you need to explain to them.
Oh.
Because could be Al-Qaeda.
Oh, no.
We're keeping it real this episode. This is unfiltered.
So the base is Youth of the Mission, Urban Key, London.
It's a
very
community.
Christian, holy community.
In YWAM.
Yes, nothing weird. But yeah, I think this has been a place that I grew and I also formed spiritually. And I've been really thankful for different guys, especially in our community, that I've maybe been assigned to lead with. That was like, so painful because I wasn't comfortable with that and I didn't like it. But actually, like, I can think of one guy in particular who has honored me so much, and it actually really healed me in the process of leading with him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think it's so true what you say, because maybe I could be validated in my victimhood of like, but I'm this way because of what I experienced, so it's valid why I keep on living that way. But in the process of healing that alongside men who are really honorable, really loving, really kind, really honest, that was able to grow in something really healthy. So I think it's so true that it's massively helpful when somebody is honoring.
Something that helped me a lot in my marriage is that my husband honor me and he value me a lot. He always think that I'm better than him. I convince him that, I don't know how, that I'm better than him, but I'm not really. But don't say to him this, please don't publicize that. But yes, the aspect of recognition is so important. But not just between men and women, but between all kind of relationships, you know.
It's true. It's so true. Wow.
100%.
Wow.
What is the next?
She's ready.
She's going to be a regular guest on this podcast.
I'm ready to receive.
The question's coming to you next.
No.
Well, actually, yes. The question is for everybody on the table.
Okay.
Everyone.
Because I
like
think we've all worked and walked in leadership in different lengths of time, in different fields, different things. So we perhaps all have different experiences. So my question is, what has your experience been as a woman in an area of leadership? Do you mind sharing some not so good moments? Does that make sense?
Not good moments in leadership.
As a woman.
As a woman.
But obviously you can go as deep as you want, but you don't have to lay it all out. Even though this is unfiltered, you can filter some things, if you know what I mean. So, do you want to go first?
Okay. I'm always ready.
Okay.
Yes, because I come from an old generation. I got a lot of experiences that were not that nice in leadership. I remember one of my first moments that were difficult in my country. In those times, ancient times, last century. I remember, because I'm a kind of clown, and then I like to make people laugh. And
you actually were a clown. You did that professionally at some point.
Yes, I'm a professional clown.
Wow.
Then I was in a meeting for leaders, and I was invited as a leader, young leader. I was around 24, 25 years old, and I was with a group of women, and I was making them laughing a lot. And suddenly an old guy that was the leader at that moment, the elder, came to me and said, Rosana, please try to calm down a little bit. Because in those times, to be a good spiritual woman, especially in leadership, you should be very evangelical. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, do you mind explaining a little bit more, just that people can understand?
I can explain.
Okay, good.
You should be a calm, very serious person. Yes, a little bit shy. That means not very extroverted. With not a lot of convictions, if it's possible. It was possible. And if it was possible, also a bit, don't say this, stupid. Yes, a bit like this, because you need to be like this, you know, and show that you are a holy person, and you never have to say anything with a lot of intensity. You need to be very calm, very proper.
Not my cup of tea.
Imagine for me it was terrible.
Yeah, I come from this generation. Yeah, it's definitely in the blood.
Yeah, for me it was difficult that moment, and many other situations that I can share with you about leadership. Actually, my gifts were quite male gift in some areas. I'm a preacher, for example. In those times, to be a preacher and being a woman didn't work, you know. Or as I said, I was a clown. Then I was working as a clown, and I got a school for clowns, and all that was completely inappropriate. Inappropriate for women in leadership. Everything that I was in my essence, my nature, I think many of the things that I consider I was in my essence, my nature, were not compatible with the evangelical prototype of holy woman. That was a problem. But I'm still survived.
You're still here.
I'm still here.
Persevered. Wow.
Yeah.
Was there a
amazing.
moment where, that might be a double question, sorry, but was there a moment where you were close to throwing the towel and saying, like, I've had enough?
Hundreds of moments about that.
Can you talk about one of them?
That very day when this guy said, and for me he was Jesus, and after Jesus was him, you know. When he said, like, when he exhorted me, like I should be different and not be that exuberant in the way that I was showing myself. I went to my bedroom and I started crying. I said, "Oh, I'm not good for anything." I felt terrible because for me was Jesus saying to me, "No, that's not good. That's not correct." But in many situations when I wanted to, I remember being in those times in a group of women, and women were speaking about how to make cakes. What about fashion?
Oh, the worst.
And I like philosophy, for example. I studied philosophy in university. I like politics. And nobody in the female meetings, nobody talk about these topics. Then I was very inclined to be with men, to listen to them and try to intervene, but they didn't allow me to intervene. Because, of course, in those times, there was a kind of underestimation of women in a way. But this was a long time ago. Now thanks God, things has changed. Not all the things that has changed for good, because now, you know, these women in power. That is not my cup of tea, but
From one extreme to the next.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Not healthy. Yeah.
No, and also I think it's not what should be according to the Bible, because leadership, beyond if it's male or female, leadership should be based in humbleness, in you know, in vulnerability, in love, then to become the superwoman. That is not what God is calling us as Christians.
Yeah, it's true.
100%.
But
Wow.
Do you guys have any experiences you want to share about being a woman in leadership?
I was just thinking about what Rosana was saying about like how leadership, we need to be like humble and loving, and I think the worst experience I had is when I wasn't that, you know, and like because I grew up in a family where like we're very strong women and like we say what we want and like we go for it. Coming to the leadership, and it was mainly in YWAM, it was like for me very strong, you know, and like the way that I lead and the way maybe it's gonna get a bit deep. But maybe the way that I lead, or that maybe that I approached people was a bit too strong. That maybe a cultural thing, like, you know, maybe in South America we're very got to a point where I was also like, for me leading is also blessing and serving. Like for me leading is not about like, as you were saying, like being the most amazing top person and like having all the titles and having all the knowledge in the world. Like I don't think that's the point. I think leadership is a place where God puts you maybe for a time, maybe not for your whole life. But I think we also, my bad experience was mainly like me, like being very strong and not being humble and not being like loving towards the other person or the group that I was leading or anything that I was doing. So I think it's, very important to know that when, not just as women, because like it happened as, I think we're very blessed in the base in YWAM. They're like also our men have grown to like also like love us as women. As Mari was saying, like there's men that have healed us in the way that we lead with them, and like how we also like come together as well, like as a family and as a community. And I think it's so beautiful because that like only my leadership it's been in YWAM. Like before that, I never led anything. Like I don't want it. I'm good, you know. So my time has been here in a very safe environment where like God was always at the center. So for me, at the moment, I've only been in YWAM for 5 years, not so long like you or like you guys. My experience hasn't been so bad that I'm like, I want to give up, you know. For me, it's more my enemies that I'm like, I'm not capable of this. Like I don't think I don't think enough, but I think there's probably like many other people are better than me. But God called us to be in this moment or God called me to be in that place in that moment. But it's easy to like say like, oh no, now that we need to honor men, like they have to do everything, and we just stay in the back. And that's not my personality, you know. I'm sorry, but it's not. And when also God healed that, I went from that extreme to be very strong to be the other extreme where I'm like, I'm not gonna talk, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna stay here and like follow. But inside of me, I was like, there's so many things I want to say, you know. And maybe in the right way, maybe in the wrong way. I'm still learning. Like. Not like fully like led for so long to know that I have some experiences, you know. So that's why I'm like, wow, I'm receiving so much, because like it will come maybe in 10 years and 20 years. I've been leading for so many years, you know. But to remain, and I think that's so beautiful, and to like be humble and as you were saying before, like honoring each other as men and women and relationships, and also as a church, as a community, as a base, as a family, as everything.
Yes, that's true. Yes, and also the problem that we face in leadership is, I don't know about you, but I never felt completely confident in leadership, because it's not my natural gift to be a leader. Sometimes people, because I'm very passionate and intense in my personality, people think that I'm a natural leader, but really I'm not. Then for example, I'm not very well organized in my mind to say, okay, you should do this and you should do that. You know, no, I'm not. Sometimes I think, yeah, you should do this, or maybe not. You know, because I'm more a kind of thinker. Then I always I'm thinking different things and maybe different possibilities, and that produce that I'm not that secure in you know, in that sense. Sometimes it's difficult for me to face moments when I need to make a decision, you know, or give an order, or say to someone, okay, this is it, because 2 seconds later, after this, I think something different. Then I'm not a natural leader, but still, there is a calling for all of us as human beings, as I said from the very beginning, to be in a role of leadership at a certain point, you know, especially when you want to serve, because leading is serving, and when you have that heart to serve others, you will find yourself in situations of leadership, always.
Yeah,
it's true.
Wow.
It's true.
I think so. Don't say everything. Yes. Wow.
Well, I have quite an interesting story of being a woman in leadership, of being a woman. Full stop. We were not in a Western country, and we were leading a team, and there was a little bit of some drama with the leaders of the place that we were and with the leaders of the team. And so they called a meeting. I'm not going to say where this was because, you know, discretion. I've been trying to remember that word. Anyway, so there was a little bit of an issue, and we said, okay, you know what, we're going to, the person I was leading with, who was a guy, said, okay, I'm going to call a meeting with these pastors and people, and we're going to get this sorted. And I said, well, I'm coming to the meeting. And he was like, yeah, of course. And the pastors were like, no, she's not going to come to the meeting. Like, she's a woman. And I was like, oh, you better believe I'm going to be in that meeting. You know, like, not a chance am I sending you into this meeting alone. And so they came. There was like 5 or 6 of them, and then just my co-leader and me. And like we sat around the table, and I sat there like, I belong here. You know? Like, I might be a woman, but this is my place. And I just remember we sat down, and they all were like very confused why I was there. And they kept giving me candy. Like, here's a candy for you. There you go, sweetheart. Oh, my goat was like burning. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I took really the position of just praying a lot, and I would pitch in every once in a while, but it was very discounted. Like, anything I said, they would be like, so anyway. Oh my gosh, it was such a struggle. It was it was so painful. And I thought, wow, similar to what we've been saying, it's been a blessing to be in a place that women in leadership is normal thing. It is It's something we walk in already. Also coming from a Western background where women in leadership is normal. And into such a place that it wasn't normal, it wasn't really accepted. It was like so painful to my pride, but also the injustice in me was like, you're kidding me. Like
injustice.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it like,
I know about that.
yeah, it goes crazy, which I think also as a woman, while there's the stereotype, right, that women are more emotional, which is usually seen as a negative thing. Sometimes, you know, like, like women are, they're too dramatic and they cry and whatever. And I do cry. I cry a lot. Like, I'm happy about something, I'm going to cry. I'm upset, I'm going to cry. I'm angry, I'm going to cry a lot more. I get nervous and I turn red. See? Turn red. Which is just like factors of my emotion. And it can be hard, I think, as a woman when there's been a lot of moments actually when maybe tears come or high emotions come and it can be discounted of like, the drama, you know, and it's like, ooh, and it's true that I don't deny that sometimes our emotions need to be in a healthy place and stable and everything. I'm not denying that, but I do think it can be hard because sometimes God uses our bigger emotions as women, our passion, like you said, our drama sometimes is good. Sometimes under the lordship and at the foot of the cross is good. But yeah, I think that I found that hard because not only am I a woman, I'm a highly emotional woman. That has also needed a lot of healing and growth, but it can be hard as a woman that is emotional when I want to express something, especially something like passion, that people are like, she's angry. And I'm like, no. Oh, I'm actually so happy, you know.
She's controlling. That is
I
the worst.
hate that one.
Don't touch that topic. This woman is quite bossy. You know, yes, this is normally I perceive that people have this prejudice when you have convictions, when you know who you are and what you want, you know. And sometimes people see or judge by the appearance of things and don't have discernment of people's heart. And you can be very like this kind of person that is so sweet and very proudful, you know.
Yeah.
Go off. So Rosana, what do we do? We need help. You just hit all my triggers.
Okay. Yes.
No, it's
so yesterday I was actually teaching on the DTS, and one of the points I was actually talking about is judgment, and I think there are so many things that we live by a connotation and a worldview that is according to the world, you know, and I think we forget to always bring it back to the biblical principle, but also to purify it and filter it through the biblical worldview, because actually we are called to judge, you know, we are like called to judge. The Bible says that we will judge angels, you know, so there is an aspect, an element of judgment that needs to happen, but the thing is we don't know how to judge, and so, and we also don't know what judging actually means. We actually see it as something that brings condemnation, and that's how we use it in order to label, to stamp, mark a generation, and even like push people to the side. Women have been judged and they've been, you know, condemned for many years, for many centuries, in many cultures, but I think in a way as well we need to like open our eyes to see how as Christians we are living in many ways according to what the world is saying, because I see a lot of times that we see a woman in leadership, or me as a woman in leadership, being strong, coming with these strong ideas and being quite capable. Very strong ideas. Genetic, exactly. But I come forward and there is a pushback, and kind of what you were saying as well, even from me, there is this like sense of wanting to fight back, you know, so there are the two sides, you know. You also specifically, you come from a generation of the uproar of women and wanting to fight for their right, right? And we are coming also from the back end of that as well. Like we've piggybacked on that. And so as women in this world today, we're also, like when we are challenged in leadership, that sort of humanistic perspective of saying, like, it is my right, is the first thing that comes up. But I think I want to go back to what you were saying, that actually leadership is not what the world talks about leadership, which is imposing, but actually leadership is servant. Leadership is actually being below, you know? And actually, again, it's not about fighting for your right, but it's actually fighting on behalf of somebody else. So when we understand that concept, I think, whether it's men or women, we can all jump in and not just fulfill a role, but like look for the need instead of look for my need to prove myself. Do you know what I mean?
True.
My need to like go off queen, you know what I mean? Instead of like actually going to meet the need, like what is necessary. I like to think that as a leader, I'm a facilitator. I think that's my gifting, to like actually look at the need and cater to that need. But I think it's something that we all need to grow, and not just those who have the ability to.
Yes, and even when you understand, which is maybe the first step to understand our role and to understand what is this about, but also to grow in love. In the way that you grow in love. Because I thought at the beginning, when I started in this path with Jesus, I thought that I was a quite loving person. I love people. But little by little I was realizing that not really that much, because of course that we used to love those who loves us, but sometimes, especially in leadership, you are rejected, you are despised, you are, sometimes misunderstood, or you need to face so many situations and things in which sometimes people are not that not express that gratitude when you are trying to help them, and the only way to be a leader, I think, is growing in that love that is unconditional, that support everything, that even sometimes keep silence because of love. That was the part that for me was more difficult, because when I know what the person needs, my will, yes, is trying to say what I see in order for the person to know the truth and then to become free of that problem. But sometimes you need to just keep silence, and that for me was was something that I needed to learn, and I learned through love. Because when you love someone, it's beyond it's beyond the truth. It's the truth, but it's the truth that works because of love. Then sometimes you just need to keep silence and see the person and don't say anything, and that is something that still I'm learning, because it's one of the big challenges in leadership, at least for me. I'm very quick to say the truth because I love the truth, and I have quite a lot of discernment after many years working with people. But just to see the problem, to see what the problem comes from, to see how the people should, what they should do in order to change, and just keep silence and don't say one word. Is
difficult.
Is difficult. Yes.
No.
Wow.
It's humbling listening to you. So thank you for sharing that.
But I'm learning that. I'm still not that wow.
Again, humbling, because I think sometimes, especially again with a worldly mentality, right? Like the more years you have, the more experience you have, right? And to an extent, that is true, right? Because there is wisdom in eldership, right? Because you've seen things in a different way. You also have the first-hand experiences. But it's so humbling to know that like we're always, no matter how many years, how much experience, we're still in a process where we still need to be dependent on God and not in our own understanding or in our own experiences. So hearing that, obviously it's so easy to say it, but walking it out is difficult. But then hearing you say it, it's humbling for, at least for me, being, walking behind your footsteps in a sense.
Something that happened to me just recently is that some lady was a bit, this kind of person that are a bit difficult. I don't know if you met some of them.
No, never.
Yeah, and I saw so many things, and I was a little bit tired of some aspect of her personality because it was affecting not just me but other people, And I was thinking, I need to talk to this lady. But suddenly, I was in a meeting, and I started to say all the good things about her. And at the same time that I was saying that, I thought, I'm becoming crazy. But I'm becoming bipolar, because I see something and I say something completely the opposite. Instead of marking or saying or just not putting that person in the conversation or say anything about her, I started to say all the good stuff about her, and then after that I thought, because I don't like to be a fake person. I want to be honest, But then I noticed that sometimes God go beyond our understanding and beyond of our reasons and beyond of our logic. My logic said, don't say anything good about her because she's very proudful and she's very controlling and she's very like this and like that. But then I found myself saying something that according to my logic, I shouldn't say. But then the Lord gave me peace that was from Him. Then to give space also to break that understanding, to break that logic, to the Holy Spirit. That's why without the Holy Spirit, there is not a book to become a good leader. You need to, as you said, to permanently depend on Him, because you cannot be guided by your logic. Then how to know what to do? You cannot be guided just by your logic or by your experience or by your feelings or your discernment. You need to follow Him. That is so difficult. When, especially because as me, you have that criteria so strong. This should be like this. For me, discipleship should be like that.
Wow. But also it really goes against what we think of leadership, because many times in the world's view of leadership, like you were saying earlier, has a lot to do with like, I need to move in the way that I think is best. Like if we think of presidents of countries or prime ministers, they move in the way that they think is best, And so to like give that space to God to say, actually, I don't know what's best, even though I think I know. And I'm like, I do know what's best, but I'm going to give you that space. I think is so powerful, because, which is something we talk about all the time, dependency on the Holy Spirit. But I think it's really, it's really like refreshing to hear it from you, because also, Rosana, I see you walk in that. I don't want to like fluff your feathers here, but at the same time, I've seen you walk in that many times. It's moving in the opposite way of not what you think, because I don't know what you think, but I'm not inside your mind, but moving in the opposite of what, I don't know, like the book says, or what should be done, and I think that's something really beautiful about leadership in the kingdom, is that it's prophetic, and it's moving according to what He sees, not by what we say, what we see. And I've been thankful for that in many moments as well, when I don't know, somebody responds to me in the opposite of what I deserve or what I know that they can see in me. You know what I mean? So it's really powerful.
And at the same time, sometimes in leadership, you need to be honest, and the Holy Spirit show you something, and you need to say and confront the people with things that they don't want to listen to at all. And especially with this generation that is quite fragile
Yeah.
very extremely sensitive sometimes. It's a big challenge. Discipleship today is a big challenge. Actually, you can be accused if you are very honest with someone. Even if you do this with a lot of love and with a lot of consideration, a lot of prayer behind that talk, and doing the best of the best, trying to help the person. But sometimes, especially now, I can see that it's like so difficult because there is a lot of about my rights, about being offended, you know, everything offend me. Then when you want to help someone, sometimes you need to say the truth, and sometimes the truth is not what we want to listen to. You know?
I think today truth is relative, but actually truth is consistent. Truth is absolute. So there can be moments where there is relative aspects, but when we lean so much to that, then we're actually moving away from truth. One of the people I listen to is Ben Shapiro, this guy who talks a lot of great things, sometimes a lot of crazy things, but he says something that is so key. Truth does not care about your feelings, and our feelings change all the time, but in this today's society, our feelings are what we're being led by, and we need to remember that actually truth is the thing that we need to live by, not our feelings.
I heard to Meloni. I don't know if you heard about her. She's the leader in Italy, the president in Italy, or prime minister, and she was speaking in the UN yesterday, actually, or the day before yesterday, and she was absolutely incredible. And I thought, I like this kind of leaders, you know, that as a woman, she was, she was very real, very honest, speaking with the truth, even when she was saying things that nobody probably wanted to hear in that particular place, because she was not very happy with the 2030 agenda of the UN, and amazing. I recommend that talk for you to listen to her. She was amazing.
Go away and listen to that. I will. Okay, so to wrap up, I really it's a big question / 2 parts to the question. In one hand, we know that God has called us to walk. God created us, both men, women, and He created us to be in communion with God. Therefore, is the same in leadership, right? And so, in one hand, how can we do this in a healthy way? Do you think
work together?
To work together in leadership as men and women, and what advice also would you give to women in leadership that are struggling to be in leadership? So in one hand, how can we be walking in leadership as women, but alongside men, because I think that's godly, that's actually what God intended. But also, on the other hand, what advice would you give for women in leadership today?
To work, first of all, to work with another person, could be in leadership or not. For example, you are cooking and you have someone else cooking with you, and there is a problem, you know. When it's more than one, there is a problem. Always.
Probably why I'm still single.
Yes, because everybody thinks that have the real way to do things, the best way to do things.
Exactly, yeah.
Then to do something with someone else always is a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful challenge because diversity always brings some kind of chaos.
Yeah.
But it's necessary because creation is diverse, you know. And to get that unity in the diversity, could be diverse genders or diverse personalities, or you know, it's a challenge. But but it's rich, it's important.
Yeah.
First of all, I think that I need to consider that even though that is a challenge, but it's much better than just to talk with myself, you know. To be, a slave of myself or my ego, then I can share with others. It's a challenge, but it's important. To share with a male is also to this challenge to talk or to work with another person. You need to add the challenge of a different gender, which is a big challenge because men are different to us. They're not better, they're not inferior to us, but they're completely different. Especially when you get married, you start to realize about that because you think, okay, he's a human being, then we are more or less, the same. Yes, he has some other characteristics physically, but we are more or less the same. But little by little, you recognize that they are completely different, and their view, their reaction, their even a lot of differences. And sometimes we judge them according to the way that we are as women, and that is a problem because then we can arrive to fake conclusions or the wrong conclusions, about in that challenge to work together with them. But if that's why, as we said at the beginning, the aspect of recognizing each other and value each other in those differences can enrich us in the things that we do. Yes, for example, for my husband, I can give you thousands of examples because we are completely different.
It's true. It's very true.
Yes, in personality, in gender, in background, in everything. It was a big challenge for us to...
Sorry, there's a police siren outside.
Yes, because after what I said, they're coming to pick me up. Yes, we are very different, and it was a big challenge, and still it is, because I'm completely emotional, intense, passionate person, and he is the most calm and and joyful, simple person in a good way, not in a simple in the sense that he is humble, easygoing, social, practical person. I'm not practical. I'm theoretical. I'm complex. He's simple. It's two different worlds coming together. And took all our life, because we are married now, and next year we will be 50 years married.
Wow.
What?
50 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
50
That
years.
is wild.
And still knowing each other, still trying to discover that immense world that is inside of him, and he tried to understand that complexity that I have inside of me, but it's a challenge, but it's beautiful, a beautiful challenge. I recommend it. You can get married, guys. It's good.
Thank you.
Because if not, you will end it up like the poor Shakira, that the last song is being single.
Shakira, the singer?
Yeah, she the last song of Shakira was is single, like to be single.
Wow.
Yes, seems that
Did you know that? Because I didn't.
I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
My grandma's pop culture is more bigger than mine.
Then I recommend to get married is good. It's good. And sometimes we are looking for the perfect guy, the prince that is the perfect one. No, don't waste time. You will not find that one. There is not any perfect one.
This went from women in leadership and advice to advice on marriage and go get married. Yeah, this is the theme in my family. Familias para Cristo.
Yeah.
Families for Christ.
Yes,
Here you
of
have
course.
it.
Yes. Then, yes, it's a tremendous, wonderful experience to get married. And yes, to know each other and to combine these differences. And for sure, we are attracted to the people or things that are different to us, and that is interesting also, no? Because I was interested in him because Grandpa is completely the opposite that I am, you know? And I thought, what? He is always calm. He never is up, he never is down, like me, because I'm up, down, up, down. He's always in balance. At a certain point, I get bored with that balance, you know. Yes, but at the beginning I was amazed by that, you know. And now I'm not that amazed. I'm not bored. I try to learn from that balance, but also try to put part of my passion there.
Yeah, a good mix.
Yeah.
So then your advice for leadership is get married.
Not really. But you know, in these times, it's like women. We are so empowered, and we don't need anybody. And in that sense, I don't think that is right. I think that we are committing a big mistake. If you are single and you are in leadership, praise you. God bless you. God bless you, really, because you will have to face a lot of challenges. But it's perfect. It's fine. But don't be afraid about getting married, because it's a good experience. It's nice. It's possible. And I think that because of what we are facing in this generation, I think it's good to say that. It's not the only way to live life and be successful and be live a, I don't know, exciting life. It's not the only way. But it's a good way. Yeah.
Wow. It's important.
It's really deep. Very deep. Keeping it very real, very unfiltered.
Yeah,
That's
the problem is that there are not a lot of men, no?
Yes. Actually, that's a great segue to our next podcast, which will be Men in Missions.
Wow.
So
What a
keep
topic.
watching, As you say that, it's like,
that's
boom.
the hope for the people to come and see us again. See you, because I'm not going to be here.
They're coming to see you.
You're going to have to be a regular guest.
Well, Rosana, firstly, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
But also for your wisdom. And I think especially for your humility always. Madison said this earlier, but everything that you've said, it's not just because you're my grandmother, but I've seen you walk in that. So I don't just hear your example, but I also hear the authority, because I've also seen that as well. So thank you for coming, imparting truth, and leaving us with some golden nuggets at the end.
Do you want to get married?
Comment below.
Comment below, but remember, you can't be picky. It's better to look at what's opposite, right? That's what we've learned. The opposite. Opposites attract.
Yes, opposites attract, but then you need to be very patient.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. God bless you, and God bless you too.
Thank you. And see you guys next time. Bye.